it's obviously the Wemby effect, right? And a lot of these guys, especially the first 2 picks, they really kind of mimic, or I guess it looks like the teams are trying to mimic Wemby, especially Alex Sarr, right? But like I said earlier, I do think there's a distinct difference in the way that Wemby plays, what looks like his approach to the game, and obviously we're gonna learn about these guys more and more. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves, right? Like, Wemby looks like a once in a generation type of player. Obviously, aside from his height and what he could do physically, the skill that he's developed to go along with that, what seems to be his mentality and the way that he looks at the game. We heard about meditation, sleeping early. He don't seem to be too interested in the women. This life don't really faze him. He seems to be a really, really unique and special person in that way. And sometimes when we see the NBA doing shit like this, where they're just copy and pasting or attempting to copy and paste, they don't realize that you can't copy and paste a 1-of-1. Right? There's things beyond what you could just see with your eyes that makes that person different and unique. And, this is only a year into Wemby, right? What if he ends up shitting the bed next year or 2 years? I highly doubt it. I don't think that's going to fucking happen. But let's just say, then everything I'm saying won't mean a fucking thing. But you can't recreate something that's so unique, right? And we're looking at some of these other guys, like a T. Jonah, bro. I'm not even gonna Salone. What? I'm so sorry, bro. Don't. You 6'9". I ain't even messing with that. But getting these guys that can seemingly play other roles and not just be a carbon copy of Wemby, I think will go a long way. Now, the question, as always, when it comes to these European players is, how will they translate physically? The NBA game is faster. Guys jump higher. Guys are strong as shit. It's a totally different game. But also, to Luka's point, the defense is a little bit more laxed. They play 5 out, so if you have an ability to get around your defender, you're dealing with open space behind them, right? That's why these guys are able to have success. It's not this jam-packed defense where everyone is below the 3-point line. So with that spacing, and these guys, can create off the dribble, they can have success. And, especially some, like, I do think I like what's his name's game. I like Sarr looks good, but it's one of those things I gotta wait and see. But the 6th pick and Zachary, I think actually look pretty solid, man. I think they actually look pretty solid, and all of these guys look like they can shoot. They all got solid looking jump shots. So if they could at least do that, then there will be a spot for them, because like I said, they have size, and if you can shoot with size, they'll be able to put you in somewhere. They'll be able to plug you in somewhere. And even more so when we look at the kind of teams that they get into, now we're talking about, can these guys develop them, right? Like Giannis, I've heard stories of the way that they were working Giannis. That motherfucker was working out, and we saw the way he was able to put on weight. But that comes from the team, the development staff, your strength and conditioning coaches. It really depends on the organization that you get to, and that's something that I think a lot of folks also miss when we watch these drafts and they're like, oh, what happened with so and so star? You got to understand that typically the lottery consists of the bottom teams of the NBA, the bottom quarter, bottom third teams of the NBA. That's what they're filled with. And when you're a bad team, that doesn't just mean you have a bad roster or you have a bad coach or you have players that just don't understand the concepts or they're just not, whatever the reasons are, right? A part of that is also management staff, coaching staff, the condition, even potentially their facilities. All of those things factor into having a bad team. And when we see some of these players go into these situations, it's no surprise to me why some of them don't pan out. Because if your team isn't helping you and you're in this new situation and you don't know what to do and no one's guiding you, then yeah, you're going to have a hard time getting better. Because if you think about, let's take high school and college, for example, right? You have practice, you have classes, you're on a schedule. And I guess, obviously once they get to college, you hear the stories of guys not going to classes. But what do? They're always in the gym working out and practicing. And they probably have two-a-days from the college teams. Practice is mandatory. Strength and conditioning is mandatory. And if y'all don't know, a lot of guys get onto these NBA teams and they have a lot of free time. Practice starts at around 9, 10 o'clock. They're probably out by like 12. If they're not working out extra on their own, or if their team isn't forcing them to or telling them to, a lot of these guys get caught up in the life. A lot of them just fuck around with their free time. And that's why, for what was it? The typical career of an NBA player is like 3 to 5 years. That's why. Because most of the teams in the NBA aren't great. Only the top, right? And you're talking 30, 32 teams. And we're talking about every year there's maybe 6 teams that legitimately have a chance to win a championship. So you're talking about a huge middle pack and then a bottom feeding teams that don't know what the fuck they're doing. And so, really looking at how these guys are going to develop not just their skill, because these European guys have skill and they have fundamentals already, but will they be able to grow physically?